And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
In today's show, we discuss another of one of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes, where we try and cover as many conspiracies as we can. And in this episode, we're going to talk about rods. What the heck are they? Are they alien or something else? We're going to cover Lake Lanier. Is that possessed with the amount of deaths? We're going to cover crop circles. What the hell are they? Are they man-made or something else? And in time permitting, we'll even try to discuss the Havana Syndrome. Hello, I'm Tony Fasula, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell? What are you going to do, pal? What are you going to
do? You're so energetic. You're so pumped. You're so filled with energy. Not.
Well, I can't be filled with energy because I'm on medication, which is making me really mellow right now. So this is mellow. This is chemically induced mellow, Tayo. Enjoy it whilst it's here. That's my suggestion.
So you're not going to give me a hard time today. We're going to actually have a mellow show.
No, we're going to have a nice, meandering, relaxed show, I think. And it's not really controversial subjects unless you believe in these topics. I don't happen to believe in a single one of them, so I don't know what your feelings are, but let's get into them and let's see where we stand.
Well, before we begin, I must ask you to say hi to our audience.
No, you're not supposed to do that, remember?
Okay, I'll do it. Hello, audience. Welcome back to this craziness.
Yes, good.
Anyway, before we begin in earnest, Tayo, as we've released, well, actually, with Tayo's idea, the weekly TNT rant.
Oh, yes.
So please look out for those. They're little tidbits of information that Tayo and I rant about, very quick, so they're easily digestible. You will enjoy them, so please look out for those in all the channels. They will be available. But anyway, on with today's show, and we're going to kick off with our popular Dynamite conspiracy theories. We're going to talk first about rods, and what their other name is skyfish. Tayo, do you want to kick this off?
I don't, because I don't know anything about them. Do you know what? Until you mentioned them and said, let's talk about rods, I didn't even know they existed. This is the first I've ever heard of rods. So I had to look them up. I was like, what the heck are rods, man? What do you know about rods?
Well, I know a fair bit, actually.
Oh.
They were, yeah. Because I saw the original, when it first kicked up, there was a guy who was filming these jumpers who were parachuting down this big cavern in the ground. So you can imagine these crazy stunty people were jumping off the top into this hole, and this was a hole, and this cavern was enormous, so deep, and so they were just literally jumping off it and then parachutes opening and landing at the bottom. But because it was so dark, there was lots of cameras filming these guys jumping. And what was noticed when the cameras were reviewed afterwards, there were these really fast
where the film was reviewed. You said cameras, where the film was reviewed.
Sorry, the film was reviewed. There was these fast moving little things that were following each other. And it was like, what the heck is that? Because you couldn't see them in normal speed. But when the cameras were slowed down, these things were darting around. And everyone was asking, what the heck are they? What have you discovered in your research regarding these things?
Well, I think it's been satisfactorily explained to me with sort of rational logic and science. So I believe I know exactly what they are. The only thing that has thrown me off is that you said when the film was slowed down. Why did anybody slow down the film? I thought what you were going to say is with the naked eye, no one noticed anything. They only saw it on the film. But you've changed that by saying they only saw it when the film was slowed down. Now that's a whole new sort of ball game. I've not heard that before.
Yeah. It wasn't, things were seen on the video, but it was just dismissed as just flies and little insects. It was only when some people chose to slow the video down in order to better see the jumpers as they jumped, were these things able to be spotted. And people are like, what the heck are these? And
so what you're saying, sorry, I've really got to wrap my head around this, because this is just a segue into sort of like Alice in Wonderland or Cloud Cuckoo Land. It's really astonishing. You're saying that if the film is run at normal speed, you don't see anything. But if you slow it down, you see something?
Yes.
Well, surely if you look at it frame by frame, either something is there or it isn't.
Well,
no, I don't think you can be right there, pal. I mean, that defies physics, man. I mean, there's something wrong there.
These things are traveling so fast that in real time, when the video was shot, our eyes don't pick it up, even on the camera. You just barely see something zip across the screen, and you think, well, it's just an insect. So your eyes dismiss it. It's only when the film was slowed down that these things become apparent. You think, hang on, they are moving at speed. And it's not, I mean, yes, there's been videos sort of trying to say, oh, these are just normal bugs that just fly and leave this trail. But although that does justify it to a point, you think, yeah, that's true, that's what it would be. What it doesn't justify is the breaks in them. If that was true, that these were purely just insects flying across, your eyes would see them in real time.
No, that's not. No, sorry. Still with speed and stuff. I could actually go into a little bit of the science of it, and you would understand, hopefully, afterwards, why that's not actually the case. You wouldn't see them in real time, because in real time, what you'd see is an insect. But when you take the shutter speed and you slow it down so that you can film into gloom. See, because you did say that it's a dark. That's what one of the things that alerted me to the fact that I was prepared for what you were going to say. Is they were filming into a dark cavern, and the shutter speed at a dark cavern, I think, is 1/90th of a second or something like that. And if you take a dragonfly, which, for instance, if I'm saying, for instance, a dragonfly flies about 9 meters per second, and it's would in 1 second and at 1/90th of a second shutter speed, you're generally going to have enough time to film the dragonfly traveling about 30 centimeters, and going through one full cycle, or a few cycles of its sinusoidal, which sinusoidal just means like sine, like the sine wave.
Yeah.
Like the sine wave of its wings flapping. And if because it's continuous image, like creating those little dioramas, what they're called, when like those little books that you flip through and you see an image, moving image. So because of that, you see exactly what these rods are. That is to say, if you were to predict, you know how science is predictive. If you were to say, well, if I did this, if I filmed at this shutter speed, and I saw a dragonfly, and I filmed a dragonfly, and I captured it with its wings flapping. What do I expect to see? But what you expect to see is exactly what you see, which is the so-called rods. So for me, that's the science of it. I mean, that's the simplest explanation.
Okay. Can I throw something in there?
I wish you would.
Why there's a gap between images? Because if what you're saying is true, you would see a continuous. It's not stopping, is it? Why do you have gaps, the distinctive gaps between different images? What's that? I'm
assuming it's the kind of camera that's involved, but I'm not really sure. I don't know what kind of camera was used. I mean, what era was this film from?
It's all
this one that you're talking about.
Even recent, because the first ones were, if I remember rightly, the chap caught it in 2005.
What kind of cameras did we have in 2005, pal?
Well,
Was it burst photography or something? Could that be the reason why? With burst photography, it wasn't continuous. I mean, I'd want to know. I mean, like modern cameras, even your phone camera is so much more advanced than anything they had back in 2005.
Indeed.
So I would suspect that it's to do with the camera operation, but that fundamentally, if you predict that this is what you're going to see just based on ordinary science, and that's what you see, I think there's a win for the men and women in the white lab coats. To be honest, I think it's a win for science. I don't think there's any sort of weird. Okay, let's put it this way. Let's go into La La Land.
Okay.
And let me ask you, what do you, or not you, or what does the conspiracy think these things are?
They don't know. They think they think perhaps it's a different type of creature or insect. It's not alien or anything daft. It's just a new species that we haven't seen before. Although
A new species
they haven't
of what?
produced.
Sorry, what kind of
It's
species?
just a flying insect, but something we've never actually captured or noticed. So that's the other thing, because some of the pictures they've worked out, even when they slow it down, that they're distinct movements. Yeah, these things are traveling upwards of 300 kilometers an hour. Now that's not an insect speed, is it? So that's what's really quite
the metabolic rate. The metabolic rate is something that flies at 300 miles an hour. Well, 300 kilometers per hour. I don't know which is which, because 300 miles an hour is but even 300
than 300.
Even 300 kilometers per hour is kind of motoring.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's faster than any animal. Yeah.
The leopard is the fastest. It's the fastest
Land mammal.
animal of any sort. What is the fastest creature on the planet, though?
I don't know.
It's the peregrine falcon. The peregrine falcon.
Oh, okay.
When it dives, it reaches speeds up to 180 miles an hour.
Okay. Which is what this speed is. 300 kilometers an hour is roughly that.
Right. So are we saying that these are diving peregrine falcons?
No. But these are traveling across the screen when they've been captured at those speeds. Hence why we are looking them in real time. We don't see them because their movement is so fast.
Okay. So you see, if something weighing one gram traveling at 300 miles per hour smacks into anything, you're going to know about it, even if it smacks into a human. I mean, it's not quite a bullet, but it's certainly got a lot of momentum there.
Indeed.
And that's going to hurt like anything. The peregrine falcon, of course, when it dives, it's gravity-assisted travel. So it's not actually
flying
energy
at that speed,
or anything.
It's diving.
It's diving. But these things you're saying are flying. So the metabolic rate of something that's doing that is going to be humongous. It's going to be right off the charts. What's it eating? I mean, you're going to need a lot of energy to produce that. So what's his food source? It's just
strange, isn't it? I'm with you. I'm perplexed, and I'm
not perplexed. I'm saying that it's a photography issue. And actually, I read about this in something called the Skeptoid magazine, and they're saying, look, just ordinary photographers have been complaining about this sort of thing because it gets in the way of their business. They take a photograph to get back into their shops or whatever, and start working on it. And go, oh, damn, I got one of these things. So they don't think it's anything weird because they've been having it since forever.
It is strange phenomena, though. I mean, if you see some of the frames that I've seen, it is pretty odd because you do actually, now you know what they're like in slow motion. You see them at full speed, and do you know what? I've never seen a bug travel at that speed, because once you've seen it in the slow motion, you know where to look. So if you play the film back at normal speed, so there's no slowing down involved, these things just zip, and I mean zip.
You're going to need to send me and our audience some of these links. I mean, we really have to put these links into.
I've got one here now. I can read it out on air so people can have a look. And it's
I don't want to read it. No.
The URL. Sorry, the website. So for our listeners, we will put it on our show and on Facebook as well. But for the benefit of our listeners at this present time, if they've got a phone,
get your pen and paper ready, guys.
Yes. It's www.ufos-aliens.co.uk. That's it.
Well, I'll tell you what. That website doesn't inspire me with a great deal of confidence.
I'm not saying that UFO or aliens, but
brimming with confidence that I'm going to discover something on that website that's going to make me go,
aha. No, I'm with you there. I mean, I'm not got a view either way, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm still thinking, well, this is quite odd. I do a lot of photography myself. I've not seen anything like this, and even when I've slowed things down, granted, I may not have just been catching these things, but I have seen bugs before and photographed bugs, and even if you film bugs, you can still see them as bugs. I'm not saying that these aren't bugs, they're just quick moving bugs, and it's quite strange. So for me, before we move on to our next topic, I don't know, my view is the jury's out. I don't know what they are. I think there's some sort of creature. I don't think it's a lens or camera issue. I think it's a bit more than that. They are a bug. They are something we aren't familiar with, or we are familiar with it, but we just didn't know it behaved this way. I don't know. I don't know what your views are. You just totally poo-poo it, do you?
I think it's a load of tosh, to be honest. Some kind of creature, some kind of cryptoid that has some kind of metabolic rate that we can't explain, what it's eating and what it's doing, and how come in all these thousands of years that humans have been on the planet, nobody else has measured them until we had the technology to see them in the 21st century.
Oh, it's because of slow motion camera.
Oh, yeah, I know, but what you're saying is that this entire set of creatures which live faster than eyesight lives. Right. So they're in front of us all the time, but they don't bump into plate glasses. They don't.
How do we know that?
But because if they bumped into a plate glass or something, we'd see a splat, we'd hear a splat, something that we didn't notice. We've got hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of CCTV cameras and everything. We're not seeing creatures just exploding into glass from out of nowhere, which is what you'd expect. Even cars driving in the countryside, you see even though you're going pretty quickly, you can generally see the insect coming towards you. When I had a Range Rover,
I've been caught many times, and the things are splattered on my screen.
You're just not paying attention. You're a white man. You're not paying attention. Now, I don't mean that in a nasty sort of racist way. I just noticed that white people don't look where they're going, which is why they keep on getting bitten by snakes. In Africa, it's like, why were you bitten by the snake, man? Didn't you see the damn snake? I'm like, as I say, oh my god, you gotta look where you're going, man.
Brilliant.
That's not me. That's not me. That's I stole that from Richard Pryor.
Okay.
Richard Pryor. Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
That's a steal from him. So they keep on getting stung by snakes because they don't look where they're going. Okay,
let's move on. Let's part that one.
I've got two comments to make.
Oh, go on.
Well, I've just forgotten one, but the other one is you keep saying bug.
Yeah.
Now,
insect.
Bug for an insect. Now, the Americans, when they say bug, they actually mean bacterium.
Oh.
It's really annoying because. Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to because we do actually have an audience in America.
Yes, of course.
We can tell from our statistics.
Yeah.
So when Tony is saying bug, he means insect because that's proper.
Thank you for setting me straight for our American audience. Yes, indeed. Hi, Americans. Hi, guys. Apologies there. Right, let's move on. We've got another one we want to discuss. Now, this one I had no idea about until you mentioned it. Lake Lanier in the States. Now, obviously, our American cousins know a bit more about this, but if you want to enlighten us, Tayo, on this subject.
Well, I came across this tangentially, nothing to do with conspiracies or anything, because we're just looking at government buying up land on the cheap. And the area which is now under the lake used to be fertile farmland. I believe it's in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
The state of Georgia in America, not the country of Georgia,
Mhm.
and in Europe. And they were buying land. I think it was something like $45 per acre. So I can't remember the details, but it sounded really low to me. I thought, well, that's not nice. You built up your life, you built up your community. You know your neighbors know you have this fantastic community going, and then the government comes and says, we're going to flood this place because we need to feed the burgeoning city of Atlanta. They need a water source and they need electric power. We're going to dam the Chattanooga River, and unfortunately, your communities are going to go under the water. And this is a huge project. Sometimes when humans do things, you forget that there are times when we can do things on a grand scale. It boggles my mind that we're talking here about 26 miles that was flooded, 26 miles of farmland, and 14 miles across or something horrific like that. So this is a huge area of land we're talking about. And the blooming thing has been flooded to the point where the tops of churches are way under the water. I mean, that's fantastic. And then they're talking about, oh yeah, but this lake Lanier, it's kind of mysterious because you get all these deaths there. I was thinking, well,
didn't they move the people though?
No, they moved the people. Obviously,
the buildings as well. Did they not?
They moved some buildings that they could, mostly the ones made out of wood, but they couldn't really move the brick and mortar ones. They left them in place in general. And these were the more historical buildings. They didn't move everything. There was no point. The brick and mortar stayed. The movable historical buildings, by movable I mean the ones made out of wood.
Yeah,
they were moved. Yeah, and they moved cemeteries as best as they could.
Yes, they they took the graves, moved the people, and reburied them. Yeah,
reinterred them somewhere else. If they could find them, look at a lot of people. I mean, you're talking about people who have been there since the 18th century.
Yeah.
So when they like Nigeria, I'll tell you this story because it's horrifying and fascinating at the same time. Where I used to live in northern Nigeria, I've mentioned it often, a town called Zaria, Zaria. There is the city of Zaria, which is where the original people of Zaria lived, inside the walls of the city.
Yeah.
These are medieval walls, just mud walls. And it's about 20, 25 feet high, around that, where it still survives. And it's quite interesting to see the ruins of the wall. Anyway, the people in the city, the people from Zaria originally, they live in the city and they feel that we are the real owners of this land because you guys are all just visitors, and the rest of us live outside the city walls. And we are living in what they would call Sabongeri. So Sabongeri in Hausa, the local language is Sabo, it means new, and Geri means town. So we live in the new town, you see.
Right.
Now the new town is heavily Europeanized, and we have everything. That's where the Europeans lived, and they built it up, and it's modern, sort of Western type or global type of town you get anywhere.
Right.
So when you have a cemetery, It's just there is your cemetery, and there's it's all mapped out and everything. So one day I'm visiting someone in the city, and I'm walking to their house, and I'm having to go over these little bumps. It's not a proper road; it's more like a path, heavily used path. But still not quite a road, and I don't know how to describe them either. Either you know what I'm talking about or not. It's not tarred or anything. It's just a dirt road between the walls of houses on one side and houses on the other side. And there are all these little bumps on the road. And eventually I'm like, what the heck are these bumps? So I asked my companion, what are these bumps, man? can't these people like just straighten out the land? Why am I having to almost trip over this bump? I says, oh, those are graves.
Right.
I'm like, excuse me, what? So these are graves. I mean, what do you mean they're graves? There's people living here, man. I say, oh yeah, well, these are the graves of the people who died in that house. They just go to their front door and dig down
And bury them there.
And bury them there.
Okay.
I'm like,
Well,
what? Are you serious? What? Don't you have a graveyard, man? What the hell is this? You water table and everything, man. What are you? What?
Oh dear.
Anyway,
clearly that's not what happened in Lake Lanier, is it?
No, but I think it's something that maybe people who are not familiar with how the other half lives would find it fascinating, because I'm still, when I think about it, I'm still gobsmacked that how does the government let that happen? You know, what's going on? Is that can't be healthy or good? And why would you anyway? Some people have this idea that will keep their fallen relatives, nearby.
Going back to your digression there, Lake Lanier, they did actually move the graves, or as many as they thought.
Yes. And I suppose the reason I went into that digression was to say it's possible that in the 18th and 19th century, before they became sophisticated, people were doing something very similar, in that they were burying people in the backyard or, wherever. So not every grave, it's more than likely that not every grave was found and moved. It's almost a certainty that, bodies were left behind.
This is where the legend comes from.
That's
about
right.
Whether it's haunted because of this reason.
This is where this is part of the legend. The other part of the legend is the horrible lynchings that took place. Because there used to be a black township, which was thriving. And I think some people in Georgia didn't like it at the time. And given an opportunity, they started lynching the men from the town on spurious reasons, and eventually drove everyone away. And there's a suggestion that there was a curse placed on the land. Yeah,
because there's been more than normal deaths, isn't it? A high number of unusual deaths.
I wanted to look into it. Is there really? Because it was flooded in the 50s. I think in 1956 was when they started flooding. Yeah. Flooding it was when they built the reservoir, basically. Yeah. And I think it took about 3 years to fill up. So that would have been 1959. So basically, we're talking about just over 60 years. Okay. In which time, about 600 people have died. So those 600 people, that amounts to 10 a year. Well, it's 10 a year.
20 a year. And how many years is it? 60?
Sorry, 60 and then 600. I think it's just times 10.
Oh, yeah, 10 a year. Oh, that's not many.
Exactly. So 10 a year for a large body, 26 miles, one direction and 14 miles. That's a huge body of water. And if you are going to go swimming and boating and accidents will happen.
Yeah.
I can't feel exercised or stressed about 10 people a year. And I suppose I should have done the research and said, well, compared to other bodies of water, what do we expect to see? And I know that there are a lot of shipwrecks, or there used to be. I think it's less now because we've got better kind of ships. The Great Lake, is it Lake Michigan, the one that goes between America and Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, people used to die there all the time. And ships just disappeared.
But that's huge in comparison to this.
Well, it is. But if you then do the maths and you do the per mile, or per square mile loss of life, is this going to be that much more different?
No,
I think it's the tales that goes along with some of these deaths. That's where it gets mysterious. People who drown in calm weather. There are no underwater currents. There's nothing to worry about, he got pulled by a riptide. There's just people just having a nice normal swim.
Good swimmers.
Within sight of shore. Don't call out for help or anything. And the next time you look up, they're not there. And you don't find them again. And that's weird from that point of view that, well, why does that happen? Boats which hit objects, but nobody can ever find out what the heck the object that they hit is. So that's weird. I think we'll agree.
Yeah, yeah.
And divers who come back saying that they were grabbed by something and they won't go back into the water afterwards. So that's kind of weird too.
Yeah.
So surrounding the common sense, everyday experience we have that you can have a heart attack, I suppose, when you're swimming. It's a high energy activity. People don't realize that. Puts a lot of strain on the heart. Maybe you just have a heart attack. You won't have time to call out or anything. You just drown. Then you sink to the bottom, and then whatever you get. I don't know. There are no tides or anything, but something moves bodies around, I suppose.
I mean, are you sure that there's, with that large body of water, there's going to be something? It's not totally devoid. It's not like an immovable bank of water. It will have
it'll be moving towards. Everything will be moving towards the outlet, wouldn't it? Because it's actually a dammed up stream. It's a dammed up river, so it'll be flowing in one direction. But it's a slow, measured, turgid, leisurely flow. It's nothing interesting. It's nothing that would disturb anybody. And you would always say to yourself, well, if he fell in here, we look downstream towards there, we should find him, because and then but you don't find the body. And that's one of the reasons why people are going, what the heck is happening here? But there are entire townships under that water.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible that the body flows into what's left of a building, a derelict building, and just gets stuck get stuck in a car or a boat or some kind of leftover piece of machinery, gets hooked on something, and then you wouldn't find the body, would you? So that's always possible. The remains of trees.
Yeah. I mean, did you hear about the lady of the lake? Have you heard that story?
Yes, but go on, because you're such a good storyteller. When I finish telling the story, people just yawn instead of jog on with their lives.
All it was, very, very quickly, there's a story that the reason why they believe it's haunted, because there's something to do with this, where there was a lady in 1958, Delia May Parker, and she was traveling with Susie Roberts on a road, and for whatever reason, there was the Ford that they were in lost control of the car, crashed in from the bridge that were crossing and diverted in the lake, and that's it. They could never find the vehicle or any of their remains. And after they checked the skid marks, they said they saw that the car did go into the lake. And it was only a year later that a fisherman discovered human remains that was floating on the lake, because they couldn't find the car. They couldn't find the bodies. And this human remains that they find, they noticed that both the hands and several toes were
2 toes
removed.
from the left foot, yes.
Yeah. Now, why were they removed? Could it have been just animals feeding off the body? You can't say there could be a nefarious reason that they were killed, but the bodies were found and they weren't sure who the body belonged to. But it was only 31 years later did they discover the Ford that was found underneath the water. And the lake bed was dredged for a new bridge that were putting together, and they found the car. And unfortunately, there were the human remains still behind the wheel. So, it was Susie who was identified as the driver. So the other person that they found without the arm, the missing hands, sort of indicates missing arms, indicates it was Delia May Parker. And so, but obviously this has stemmed, you have people talking about, was it somebody doing something, murdered them, throw them off the edge? We don't know. And so stories can build from that. Wives' tales, people, talking late at night. And this is where all these stories may manifest, when, as you've already eloquently said, there hasn't been a lot of deaths there really in comparison to other places. So haunted, I'm not so sure. I think it's
and then the lights, of course.
The lights, what was that? Go on.
Well, mysterious lights. So many people talk about lights that appear on the lake. And some of them have been captured on...
Are these apparitions or are they lights?
Well, unexplained lights. Just know it's someone on the lake, apparently, and the light just appears and travels in one direction or the other, and disappears as suddenly as it appears. I mean, it doesn't fade out of sight. You know, if it was traveling away from you, it would get further and further away. It would get dimmer and dimmer, and then disappear. You think, well, that was just human traffic. But when they appear, they just appear like one. You know, like they're not there, and then somebody switches something on. And then they travel in one direction or the other, and then as if somebody switches something off. But why would anybody be on the lake just switching lights on randomly? I mean, maybe a hoax, but these have been going on for years and years and years. And what's the story there? It's not illegal hunting, illegal fishing, or anything like that. So it's just part of the mystery of the place, and it's just part of the mystery of the place. So I think I'd put it down to being mysterious, especially since there are actually signboards, which Americans would call billboards, I suppose. There are signboards plastered all over the place. Do not swim here. It is dangerous. So it's recognized as a dangerous body of water by the government of the place. And there isn't a good reason why it should be dangerous. So I'll put it down as mysterious. I'd say I'm not going to go as far as saying it's haunted, but I will go. Go as far as to say there are things there that can be and should be better explained, much like the Bermuda Triangle. I think it's like, we don't know what the heck is going on, but it's weird. And that's where I'll put it down. Just put it down as weird. Which is why I put it down.
I mean, I'm not thinking it's haunted. It's no different to any other places. Granted, there are some oddities here for sure, but that doesn't make it haunted. It just makes it strange, like the Bermuda Triangle, which hopefully we'll cover in a future topic. But for this, in conclusion to this particular Lake Lanier, I don't think myself is haunted, but it is strange, as we touched on.
It's strange.
Cool. Right. Our next one. This one's an interesting one. I like this subject myself. Crop circles.
Really?
Go on.
Oh, come on. Really?
Yeah.
So let me get it right. These vastly intelligent aliens cross the vast expanses, the mindlessly vast expanses of space to come to planet Earth to leave signs in our crops, designs. I mean, even if they were just graffiti, maybe you can convince me that they're graffitis aliens who are just having a laugh and playing a joke on planet Earth. But I notice that it always happens. Now, this is going to sound racist, but you're trying to understand where I'm coming from. It always happens where there are white people. Have you noticed? I don't see any.
I haven't. I must be honest, I haven't.
I haven't noticed any crop circles in Africa. Because in Africa, you go into a farmland and you start messing with the guy's crops, he's going to fetch a machete and he's going to explain the matter to you in no uncertain terms, man. Okay? It's not going to be something you can laugh off. That's how he feeds his family, and it's very, very serious. I think I've heard of crop circles in movies in India. I think it was 2021 or something like that, the movie 2021. Sorry, I beg your pardon, 2012 with Nicolas Cage, if you recall that movie. It was a good movie, if you like that kind of thing. And that's where I think I hear, and I think Independence Day also. Wasn't there something to do with crop circles appearing?
No, that was Signs.
Signs, was it? Was it Signs? Okay,
yeah, with Mel Gibson and
thank you. Only in Hollywood movies have I heard of crop circles in third world countries. Because in third world countries, if you get caught doing anything funny with and in obviously the third world countries, people sort of keep an eye on their farms a lot closer than they're doing in Western countries, because the crops are so valuable and so important.
Yeah.
So that's what I've noticed, and I think it just boils down to people playing. I mean, people have owned up to being the hoaxers.
Well,
for some of the original.
Yeah, that's right.
And they showed us how it was done, and it was very clever and everything. I mean, people are clever. Have you ever watched Penn and Teller Fool Us?
No.
Yes,
Penn and Teller. Yeah, of course.
All right, for people
the
who
two guys
don't know,
on YouTube, yeah.
Penn and Teller are famous magicians, American magicians, and they have a show, which is foolish, where they invite other magicians to come and fool them. So the magicians will come on, they will perform a trick, and Penn and Teller will try to figure out how it was done. And if they can't, the magicians then get invited onto the stage show in Las Vegas, and they become famous, and it's a good gig. So it's good if you can fool Penn and Teller. Now the point I'm bringing up is that when you figure because there are people on YouTube who explain how these tricks are done, they spend a lot of time figuring it out.
Yeah.
And when they tell you how it was done, you get an idea of how extremely clever some people are. Really, really clever. And they think of things that no one else would think of. So when they do things, you just think to yourself, I'm pretty sure this guy's an actual magician. That's not the trick.
Yeah.
And then when you find the solution to it, you go, oh, who would have thought of that? Same thing with crop circles. Like when you look at it, you might go, come on, nobody could do this. But when it's done in front of you, you go, wow, I would never have thought of that. So I am not impressed by crop circles at all. I mean, why would aliens even come to Earth and make, if it's not graffiti, if it's not just mischief making, what possible reason could they have? I thought they were trying to hide themselves. So if you're trying to hide yourself and you don't want to become known to the local population, you don't interfere with anything that the local population is doing. That's my thoughts on it. I just don't see, it's not consistent with the behavior of shy aliens.
Well, the thing is, right, I think most of them are man-made, let's be honest, okay? But there's some that are so intricate, but they're all symmetrical. And some are clearly man-made, although some are so intricate, and they're made in one night. And you sort of think, how on earth have a group of people been able to stomp this down in such a manner and make it as accurate and as detailed and as geographically correct when they're on the ground, unless they've been flying drones above to watch and direct them? Or, some of them are, if they are man-made, fair play to them, because some of them are incredible. However, what has been discovered is that there's some vortices that are made which generate some patterns that you and I are familiar with. You get certain structures that appear, like we know the bee colonies, for instance, they seem to go in this structure of a hexagon. And that's a nature. You think, why do bees make a hexagon shape? But they create that naturally. And we don't think that that's alien, but it's a made by a nature thing, by bees. And we're seeing that if you go to a subatomic level, a very low level, certain patterns are forming when you put certain chemicals together and you throw either it's magnetic radiation around it or microwaves around it. They then form into shapes, strategic shapes that you and I are familiar with. And we, wow, these are intricate. So some of these crop circle images resemble some of these intricate patterns at the molecular level when you introduce some sort of field. And scientists are now debating, say, well, look, some of these are very intricate. Could they have been made by man, or could it have been genuinely some sort of weather pattern? They question it. Science, without an answer, you have to question. Could it be a pattern similar to what we see at the subatomic level or the molecular level that creates these patterns? And these are symmetrical patterns at that level, just because you introduce a field. You must have tried this yourself with magnets. Have you ever done it with iron filings?
Yes.
Where you put magnets across it and the iron filings then behave and they go into a symmetrical pattern and they behave a certain way. So what the scientists are suggesting that this could be a form of weather in some instances, not all, because clearly some of the diagrams are crazy. Some of them are man-made. You can see they're man-made because they're actually depicting a scene or an image or something, which is man-made. Okay. But some of the symmetrical ones, the intricately symmetrical ones, there's a question mark. Could it be? And that's a very, they're not saying they are, but could it be? Good science says you should at least put that question forward until it's been categorically disproved, because they're not proving it. They're just saying, should we consider that these could be a weather phenomenon?
I would tend to throw such scientists, in inverted commas, out of the Academy of Sciences and not let them back in, because that is ludicrous. I mean, you got to start off with what kind of weather phenomenon can be so precise that it leaves these patterns in fields without any other sign of anything else anywhere else on the field.
But there is a burning involved.
Well, all right. So there's burning, and it only burned in this particular pattern. It didn't singe anything else randomly. I mean, what in nature occurs, to do with the weather, by the way, specifically, what occurs that is so precise? I can't think of any single weather event, hail, snow, wind, rain, whatever. I can't think of a single weather event that happens that is precise down to the centimeter, and doesn't have some element of randomicity about it, or randomness, if you like, about it. So that is just so mind-bogglingly not science that anybody who says that can't possibly be a scientist of any use to anyone. Because you've got to start off with, if you take this known phenomenon and you extend it like this, then you might see that. Like you were talking about the magnets and so on, magnetic fields. Yes, magnetic fields have got a certain pattern, a well-known pattern. We've noticed this pattern already. And if somehow you were talking about it interacted with something on the land, and this resulted in, well, we can start thinking about how to perform some experiments on that to see if that makes any sense. But just to say it's a kind of random weather event which acts in a way,
saying that's all that they are proposing. Could it be?
No, it can't be. It can't be, because weather doesn't act that way. That's my answer. No, it can't possibly be, because that's not how weather acts. Weather acts in a certain way, and it's got a certain fidelity, which means it will act within a certain accuracy. Well, fidelity is the word I'm looking for, and the fidelity that is required to build these crop circles is much higher than anything that we've seen weather do. So where they getting that from? They just pulled it out of the hat. It's just where are you getting that from?
I'm going to throw something else in the ring here regarding crop circles. What's been discovered is that the crop circles that have been made or been owned up to being man-made, there's a group of scientists who have looked at these and seen how they've been done, obviously, and the guys have said we use planks and we've done this sort of way, and so the scientists that looked at this examined how the bends in the crop were produced and how the crop actually they did a real test apparently, and the ones where there's no one that's owned up that looked really strange, the crops are slightly affected in a different manner to all the ones that were man-made. And what they discovered was, have you heard of animal mutilations? Have you heard about this?
Yes.
Just for the benefit of our listeners.
The Skywalker Ranch has been one of the most famous locations for these things, where
animals are being mutilated, and really strangely. And there's even been humans who've been tending to the animals.
I'm laughing at myself. Did I say the Skywalker Ranch?
Yeah.
Oh, Skywalker was from Star Wars.
Star Wars. I thought it was a Skywalker Ranch.
Huh? Skinwalker.
Skinwalker. Oh,
Skinwalker, not Skywalker. Too much TV. The Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah.
All along.
Yeah, and the thing is, the mutilations are really strange. They're quite specific. You get these penetrated holes that look like a burning. And what they found, the scientists found who were examining crop circles, found the exact same burning patterns around cow mutilations, because they also discover around those cow mutilations the same print, they used print of burn on the surrounding crops. And some of the crops, even where the mutilations were, also resembled crop circle design. And there are a number of pictures that depict humans who were caught at the same time as the animals, who had the same penetration marks, they're dead, on their bodies as the cattle. And you then have the same crop circle formations in and around these mutilations.
Oh, you just said about humans.
Humans.
So just go back, just repeat that.
Humans have been killed
by
where
who?
animal mutilations were killed, and the humans found next to the animals or in close proximity of the animals had the same mutilations, exact same mutilations as the animals.
How come I've not heard of this?
Yeah.
This is complete news to me. Where did you get it from? This is from your UFO-aliens website.
I will try and find the website once again, and I will put that out and I'll share that, because yes, that was quite a eye-opener for me as well. And you could actually see the photographs of the mutilated victims.
You see, I worry about things like this because, as you know, I troll the internet quite avidly, and I would expect to have heard something like this. If I can know about the Skinwalker Ranch and mutilations and the burning patterns, because I do actually know about the burning patterns in some of the crop circles, then I'd also expect to have come across this, the bodies, the human bodies. This is the very, very first I've heard of them, and they're not even been mentioned by various conspiracy. I don't know whether to use the word aficionado or lunatic, but on Facebook, I belong to several conspiracy groups, and even in there, I've not heard anything like this. So I'm really, really, really skeptical about humans being found. Basically murdered, you're saying?
Well, yeah, it would appear so, yeah.
You're saying that some of this happened in the Skinwalker Ranch?
I don't know if it was there specifically,
right?
But there was a video that I saw as well that showed the mutilations, and it also showed the humans that were there that were also mutilated.
Really?
Yeah. There's a guy, I think he does a website called Strangeries. No, not a website, YouTube channel called Strangeries. And I think he showed it on there. And that was really quite eye-opening. When you saw the mutilations, you saw the ones to the humans as well. And the similarity, which was quite worrying, because the mutilations, I mean, obviously that's a separate subject. We're digressing ever so slightly, but it is linked to the crop circles, because where the mutilations happen, the crops surrounding the mutilations exhibit, like I said, the same burning as crop circles. Some of the crop circles, not all, I must stress that, some of the crop circles. So this then now leads me to another level. Are crop circles, as we touched on this subject, are they alien or something worse than that? I don't know, because that then throws this into the mix. We associate cattle mutilations with some sort of alien, maybe, because we still don't know what causes those. But the fact that the crop circle burning is around the cattle discovered is similar to just these patterns, or the way they're made on some cases would suggest some sort of link. And if we've linked aliens to cattle mutilations, then do we not keep that same link to crop circles themselves? Or is it just a loose link? I don't know. It's certainly something that needs a little bit more investigating, that we can't just dismiss crop circles out of hand. They're all man-made. That means none of them could be slightly more worse than that. But I'd love our listeners to comment on these subjects, clearly what they believe the animal mutilations are they alien? And because the crop circle, the way that they're created on some of them match some of those found around the animal mutilation, are they therefore linked? Are we talking a extraterrestrial race of beings are causing these?
I am skeptical. I'll tell you why. When you say the same kind of burning,
yeah.
Well, I've just, by the way, I found your video, I believe. It's called Proof That Not All Crop Circles Are Man-Made.
Yeah.
As you said, this is on a channel called Strangeries on YouTube. So our audience can go and have a look at it. After this show, I'll go and have a look at it myself. And I'm intrigued. But when you say it's the same kind of burning, I mean, that is unscientific talk, in my opinion, because you'd have to tell me what kind of characteristics are in the burning, which matches the crop circles to the mutilations. With a certain band of radiation to a certain quantity, intensity, or something. So anyway, it's a bit glib to say it's the same kind of burning, because burning is burning. Unless
seeing the same burn pattern. Let's put it that way.
Same burn pattern.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll have to look it up. I will put this on our Facebook because I'm mindful of the time here of our show. So yeah, that will then back up what the scientists have put forward as to why they believe that these are not all man-made.
It's certainly deepen the mystery. If true, then there is cause to say, well, that's odd. Which is as close as I'm ever going to get to talking about conspiracies being proved. I'll just go, well, that's odd.
Yeah, more investigation is required.
Precisely.
Absolutely. But we'd value our listeners, what they believe regarding crop circles. Are they man-made, all of them, or is there some doubt in order for them to be something entirely different? Right, let's move on. Our final one for today, we're going to discuss the Havana Syndrome. Kaya, yes. Do you want to elaborate and explain to our audience what actually is the Havana Syndrome?
Well, in this case, you'll have to suffer my lack of being able to tell the story properly. Because I am interested in this. It started a couple of years ago, I believe, when staff of the American embassy in Havana, in Cuba, said they noticed something, that they were falling ill, and they blamed a mysterious hum for it, but they couldn't tell where the hum was coming from. And it got so bad that some people actually had to leave the mission, because an embassy is called a mission. They had to leave the mission and return to America, where I believe that there was medical evidence. So this is serious physical evidence.
Yeah.
That they had been exposed. I don't want to go so far as they've been exposed to something, but there was physical evidence to back up the fact that when they said they were feeling ill, there was a reason for it. So it wasn't in their heads. That's the important point. Yeah. We don't know what caused it, but whatever it is, it was not in their heads. They really had been affected by something. And whatever that something was had left physical traces which were objectively measurable.
Yeah.
So at this point, it stops being a conspiracy and it becomes a mystery. And the mystery is, what is the source of these medical incidents. And the speculation, where we go back into conspiracy theory now, the speculation is that who else? The Russians had developed machinery which could, maybe using ultrasound, it could project injury into and onto into buildings and cause injury to the persons in those buildings.
Some of them will complain of headaches, fatigue, hearing loss, vision loss, severe cognitive impairment, tinnitus, brain fog, vertigo, and loss of motor control. Serious
problems. But I just say, who else but the Russians? But the thing is, as everybody knows, at least they should know, I'm a real President Putin fan. And President Putin doesn't do things, stupid things that could one day blow back on him. We all know that people you trust today are tomorrow's whistleblowers. Can you imagine the trouble Russia is going to get into if there's a whistleblower who comes and says, yes, that was us, and I was working on the project, and this is what we did? It could actually lead to war. And President Putin is not an idiot. You might not like him, but there is no evidence that he's an idiot. If I was in his shoes, I would never sign off on a project like that, because it is an actual act of war. There's no getting around it. You are actually harming government officials of a foreign nation, and a powerful foreign nation, and they're not going to be happy if and when they find out about it.
Yeah,
this is my problem. But the thing is that hasn't confined itself to Havana. And I believe that now in Southeast Asia, I can't remember which capital, that an embassy there has also been affected by this.
But what's strange about this is that they're government-run buildings where people are complaining about this problem. So that would raise suspicions that this could be a rogue organization. I'm not going to say government, but somebody that is targeting these buildings and these individuals within the buildings to stop them doing their job, which is, maybe, we don't know what those jobs are, but they're going to be government-backed jobs, and this is actually impeding it. And wasn't there a commission or somebody who's gone and looked at this and to sort of find out what could possibly be?
Well, I'm not aware of any commission, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody somewhere in America wasn't looking at it, because in a sense, if there is something there, then America is actually under attack. At least its diplomatic missions are under attack, and that's serious. That's really serious.
Yeah.
But I can't. I don't know. It's one of those. See, this is all these mysteries that we've spoken about and we tend to speak about. What makes it mysterious is that you end up going, I don't know. It sounds like it's something, but is it something? This is the question. And what would be the? If someone is testing a weapon, I can buy that. But if you were testing a weapon, why would you just? You might not like Americans. A lot of people don't. But why would you confine it to just the Americans? Why won't you practice on NATO members? Why isn't this happening to British embassies and high commissions?
Yeah.
And consulates? Why is it just the Americans? This is the problem, that when you start asking certain questions, it doesn't tie in to something that's logical or rational.
Well,
and to me, that's the problem.
The thing is, though, the government agency, I think it was the Journal of the American Medical Association, they looked into this, and also the National Academies of Science and Engineering. They looked at this and they concluded there must be 4 possible attack vectors for this. Well, number 1, direct radio frequency energy. Okay. Possibly chemicals.
Just one second, please.
Go on.
1 second. You see, direct radio signal energy.
Frequency energy, yes.
Right. That would actually be directional.
Yeah.
And measurable. And you can't tell me that in the 21st century we don't have instruments that can within 48 hours we can fly out instruments to measure that objectively, and we would know.
Well,
and we would not only would we know, we'd know where it was coming from, and we can track it down and conclusively prove that it was this. So, frankly, if they're still saying it now and they haven't identified it, then I'd poo-poo that straight away. So that's nonsense. And be extremely dangerous to operate because you'd be almost certain to be caught.
Yeah, because the distance would be limited, because the further away you are, the bigger the power source in order to generate something like that. So even if you could, for instance,
mounted on a lorry or something.
Yeah, on a lorry or something, short term, you could be within, I don't know, 100 yards, I don't know, maybe 100 yards, 1,000 yards away from, but we'd have thought, direct line of sight.
Exactly. But, and people were bound to notice that every time this blooming truck shows up, we all start feeling ill.
Yeah.
I mean, because embassies have got, because of terrorism,
you can't be that
they've got cameras everywhere, because they have to defend themselves. And someone would notice, that truck's here again, we're going to start feeling, I mean, come on, you'd be caught in no time whatsoever. I wouldn't be part of any operation like that.
But final conclusions, because we really are at the end of our show.
That's a shame. I thought you were going to tell me something more about it.
This was a good one.
No, because you have to continue. I mean, you have, because you mentioned the radio thing, and I said no. How about chemical thing?
Yes, chemicals possibly, but they again, they've got no evidence of that. Infectious agents, which could be linked to chemicals, and maybe the other one, which is psychological and social factors. You can't. I mean, I know you said they saw evidence of it, but that wasn't the case on all of them. The people that reported it, some of them definitely had some sort of physical attributes that showed that they've certainly come into contact with something. But there were some who had no physical evidence at all. So could these be just purely psychological, because they'd heard that some people fallen ill? So by, you hear it, you influence psychologically by that, you fear that, why have they fallen ill? You don't know, could it affect me? And you then subsequently get the same symptoms. So that is a factor as well. So these are things that they're still investigating. They still haven't concluded. But what's really crazy is just in the news this week, there's also examples of a similar case of this problem occurring in Europe, again in an embassy in Europe. That was reported by the BBC. So
an American embassy.
It was, yes. I think I even sent you the message of where it was. Yes, it was local. It was done by the BBC. They reported on it just recently, and in Berlin. That was it, in Berlin. A US embassy in Berlin. Yes, correct. This week, would you believe, we're doing this show in 2021, back end of 2021, and the BBC have reported a problem, Havana Syndrome, in Berlin, at the US embassy in Berlin.
I wasn't aware of that. I don't know if you did send it to me. I think maybe you meant to, but no, I haven't come across that.
You haven't seen that one. Maybe I haven't sent it. But I
that's
thought
amazing.
I'd sent it. Yeah, that's actually current now. So
that would be 3 embassies at least, because there's this one in Southeast Asia. I can't remember which country it was in.
But it's
and
also
then Havana,
it's US embassy in each case, though.
Yes. Well, there's a reason, because a lot of people don't like the US. It's quite understandable, really, why they don't. The other thing is hysteria. Now, because of the objective evidence of some sort of actual physical harm, then it's very hard to call that hysteria. But was it in the 17th century France, or where was it, where we had the case of the laughing children? And that was put down to hysteria. Well, the laughing children was an incident, an outbreak. I think it was France. I'm not absolutely certain. I think it was the 17th century. I'm not absolutely certain. It could have been the 18th century in some other European country.
Yeah.
But wherever it was, in this village, basically, children had uncontrolled and unstoppable bursts of laughter. And it started off with 2 kids, I think, and then it started spreading. And some children died. So it wasn't like, it wasn't something to sort of laugh. No, sorry
Laugh
for
about. Oh dear. Yes.
pardon the pun. It wasn't something to
Mm.
laugh about. And it lasted about 12 days or a couple of weeks. And as mysteriously as it had started, it stopped. And the best explanation that I've heard so far is still hysteria.
Wow.
But so if you want to think about mysteries, that was a real mystery.
Indeed. Right. Okay. Let's sum up because we have reached the end of the show. What's your view on the Havana Syndrome?
Oh, there's something needs to be explained here. There's definitely a requirement here to explain something. We have physical evidence which cannot be poo-pooed. So we do need to find out what the heck is going on. It's a real mystery.
Yeah, indeed. I'm agreeing with you there. It's still inconclusive, obviously. It's a running thing that's happening now. But yeah, we do need to know more about what is actually happening. But hopefully in the next few weeks, we might get some answers, but who knows? But other than that, we must end it there because we have reached the end of a show for another week.